Metal hits. Metal. The sound cracks through the bus like a gunshot. Sharp. Final. A small object skitters across the wet floor, spinning, slowing, stopping. A velvet box, navy blue, worn at the edges. The lid pops open. Inside, gold catches the fluorescent light. An eagle spreads its wings across a 5-pointed star. Blue silk ribbon, faded but unmistakable. The Medal of Honor sits in a pool of muddy water, raindrops still beating on its surface. The bus driver stares down at it. His face drains. Red fury bleeds to white shock in the span of a breath. His mouth opens. No sound comes out. He stumbles back against the fare box, one hand clutching his chest like he's the one who's been hit. Someone gasps. The old man on the floor reaches for the box with trembling fingers. His lips move, but the words are lost under the hum of the engine and the whisper of 30 passengers who've just realized they're watching something break. Before we find out why this driver is about to regret his entire life, make sure you're subscribed to Wisdom and Soul. You won't want to miss what happens next. 30 minutes earlier. Thunder rolled across Chicago's south side like incoming artillery. Marcus Washington flinched. His whole body went rigid under the bus shelter, shoulders hunched, hands jammed in his coat pockets. The sound echoed off the buildings, deep and low. For a second, he wasn't 78 years old standing on Ashland Avenue. He was 21 again, flat in the mud on Hill 881. The flash came next. Lightning split the sky. He blinked, breathed, counted to 5. The shelling stopped. Rain hammered the plastic shelter roof in sheets. Water poured off the edge. Marcus pulled his field jacket tighter. The fabric was military issue, olive drab, older than most of the people waiting at this stop. Patches covered holes where the seams had given out. The name tape over the breast pocket had faded to nothing decades ago. His right hand moved to his chest, pressed against something hard beneath the layers. Still there. He checked his phone. Black screen. Dead since yesterday. The charging cable had frayed last week, and $20 for a new one might as well be $200. He dug into his front pocket instead, pulled out a worn leather wallet. 3 singles, $1.20. 47 cents rattling at the bottom. Enough for flowers. Enough for candles. Enough for one bus ride. Marcus's hands shook as he tucked the wallet away. Not from the cold. The shaking never stopped anymore. His knuckles were swollen, fingernails crusted with dirt he couldn't scrub out. He'd tried this morning, 20 minutes scrubbing with powdered soap. But the grime was part of him now. The young woman next to him shifted her purse to the far side. Didn't look at him. Didn't have to. Marcus stared at the wet pavement. Another crack of thunder. Closer this time. His hand went back to his chest. The object under his jacket was rectangular, hard-cornered, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag and secured with duct tape. He could feel its weight even when he wasn't touching it. 41 ounces. He'd carried heavier things, but nothing that mattered more. The field jacket shifted as he pressed down, and for just a moment, a gap opened between the buttons. The edge of a velvet box showed through, navy blue, scuffed. A name was engraved on the lid in tarnished gold lettering, barely visible in the gray light. Lieutenant James R.M. Marcus yanked the jacket closed. He looked around. No one had seen. The woman with the purse was scrolling through her phone. An older man in a business suit read the news on his tablet. A teenager had earbuds in, eyes closed, nodding to a beat only he could hear. No one cared about the old man in the torn jacket. "Just one ride," Marcus whispered. His voice cracked. "You promised." You promised him. The rain kept falling. Water pooled around his boots, soaking through the duct tape he'd wrapped around the soles. His socks were wet. His feet were numb. The cold sank into his bones the way it used to in the monsoon season. Back when cold meant you were still alive, he reached into the plastic bag at his feet. White carnations, half crushed, a pack of tea candles from the dollar store, one already broken. He'd spent the last 2 days collecting cans along the Red Line, turning them in at the recycling center on Cermak. 62 cans for $3.10. It was enough. Down the block, headlights cut through the rain. The bus emerged from the gray, water spraying from its tires. Number 42, Ashland Avenue. His bus. Marcus stood. His knees popped. Pain shot up his right leg, the one that still had shrapnel buried too deep for the surgeons to reach. He shifted his weight, grabbed the plastic bag with the flowers, pressed his other hand flat against his chest. The box was still there, safe, protected. The bus slowed. Air brakes hissed. The rain tasted like rust on his tongue. His heart hammered against his ribs, and he couldn't tell if it was from the climb ahead or from the thunder still rumbling in the distance. The doors folded open. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of diesel and old vinyl seats and 36 people trying to get somewhere dry. Marcus stepped forward. His boot hit the first step. Water dripped from his coat onto the grooved rubber mat. He reached for the fare box with his veteran's ID card. The laminated one with his picture from 15 years ago when he still had an address. The driver looked up. Their eyes met. And Marcus knew, in the way you know things when you've survived what he'd survived, that this ride wasn't going to be easy. Marcus lifted his veteran's ID card toward the fare reader. Stan's hand came down first, palm flat, fingers spread, blocking the scanner like a steel gate dropping. The card stopped an inch from the green light, suspended in the space between intention and permission. Marcus looked up. The driver stared back. Mid-40s, white, thick neck, CTA uniform pressed with military creases. His name badge read Kowalski, S. His jaw was set. His eyes were cold. Neither man moved. Stan's gaze dropped. Slow. Deliberate. He took in the boots first. Cracked leather, soles flapping, held together with silver duct tape that was already peeling in the wet. Then the pants, stained dark at the knees, cuffs frayed and caked with street salt. The field jacket came next, ripped at the shoulder seam, missing 2 buttons, collar turned up against the rain. Finally, Stan looked at Marcus's face. The old man's cheeks were hollow. 3 days of gray stubble, a scar running from his left ear down to his collarbone, raised and purple, the kind shrapnel leaves when it doesn't kill you clean. His eyes were bloodshot. His breath came short. Stan's lip curled. His voice was flat. Matter of fact. The way you'd tell someone their shoe was untied. A real soldier knows how to keep himself together. Don't disgrace that uniform. Marcus's throat tightened. His hand moved instinctively to his chest, pressing against the hard rectangle under his jacket. He wanted to pull it out. Show this man what he was protecting. Show him what real service looked like, but his fingers wouldn't obey. His arm stayed frozen at his side. The box stayed hidden. His body had locked up the way it used to in the bush when the enemy was close and movement meant death. Stan didn't wait. He reached for the radio clipped to his shoulder, pressed the button. Static crackled. Dispatch, this is Bus 42. Code 7 at Ashland and 47th. Suspicious individual, possible stolen Valor. Requesting transit security. The radio squawked back. Copy, 42. ETA 12 minutes. Stan's hand stayed on the fare box, blocking the scanner. His other hand moved to the key in the ignition. One twist. The engine died. The lights stayed on, but the warm air stopped flowing. The bus settled into silence except for the drum of rain on the roof. Marcus stood frozen on the first step. Water dripped from his jacket onto the floor, pooling around his boots. The plastic bag with the flowers hung from his wrist, limp and see-through. Inside, the carnations were crushed flat, petals brown at the edges. "Check the number." Marcus's voice came out barely above a whisper. Stan leaned back in his seat, crossed his arms. Sure. He didn't move to check anything. Behind Marcus, someone groaned. "Come on, man," a young guy called from the middle of the bus. "Just pay and sit down." "Driver, we got places to be." A woman's voice, sharp with irritation. "I'm waiting for security." Stan's tone didn't change. He looked past Marcus at the rest of the passengers like they were all in on the same inconvenience. "This'll be quick. Just need to verify some things." Marcus's hand tightened around the plastic bag. The candles inside clinked together. His other hand pressed harder against his chest, feeling his heart hammer through the layers. Fast. Too fast. His throat had closed completely now. The words were trapped somewhere between his lungs and his mouth, drowning in the same shame that had followed him for 57 years. The shame of coming home. The shame of still being here when better men weren't. This wasn't anger. Anger he could take. He'd been yelled at, shoved, spit on. Anger was honest. It burned hot and fast, and then it was over. This was colder. This was a man looking at him and deciding he wasn't worth the breath it would take to argue, deciding he was a problem, a fake, a disgrace. Marcus swallowed hard. His legs shook. The pain in his right knee flared, the old shrapnel grinding against bone. "Yo! Driver!" A teenager near the back stood up, phone in hand. "This is messed up! Just let him on!" "Mind your business," Stan said without turning around. "This is my business. I'm on this bus." "Then sit down and wait." The teenager sat, muttered something under his breath. A woman in the front row clutched her purse tighter, moved it to the far side of her lap away from Marcus. She didn't look at him. No one did. They looked at their phones, out the windows, at the floor. Anywhere but at the old man dripping rainwater onto the steps. Marcus's vision blurred. Not now. He couldn't brake now. The engine sat silent. The rain hammered the roof. 30 people breathed and shifted and checked their watches, and no one said a word. Stan sat with his arms crossed, waiting. 12 minutes until security arrived. 12 minutes standing in the doorway like a criminal. 12 minutes of everyone on this bus deciding exactly what kind of man he was. The clock on the dashboard ticked forward. 2 minutes down, 10 to go. "Driver, seriously." A man in a business suit stood up. "I have a meeting at 5. Can you just—" "Sit down, sir." "This is ridiculous." "Sit down." The man sat, pulled out his phone, started typing furiously. A woman near the front leaned toward her friend, whispered loud enough for Marcus to hear. "I knew I should have taken the red line. Girl, look at him. Probably on something." Marcus stood perfectly still. Rain dripped from his sleeves. He kept his eyes down, kept his hand on his chest, kept breathing. In, out, count to 5. "How much longer?" Someone called from the back. Stan checked his watch. 8 minutes. A collective groan rippled through the bus. "This is bullshit," the teenager muttered. "Language," Stan snapped. "Man, you're holding 30 people hostage because I'm doing my job." Stan's voice rose. "CTA policy is clear. Suspicious activity gets reported. That's the rule. He's an old man in the rain. He's a potential fraud." The teenager started filming on his phone. Stan's neck reddened. His eyes flicked to the phone, then to Marcus, then to the street where the rain showed no signs of stopping. A young woman in scrubs stood up. "Driver, I work night shift at Stroger. I need to get there, please. 7 minutes. I'm going to be late." "Then you should have taken an earlier bus." She sat back down. Hard. The man in the business suit stood again. "This is illegal detainment." "Call a lawyer," Stan said. "After you sit down." Marcus's legs had started to shake. The shrapnel in his knee felt like it was grinding through bone. His lower back spasmed. The plastic bag handle cut into his wrist. He shifted his weight. His boots scraped on the wet mat. "Don't move," Stan said without looking at him. Marcus froze. The woman in the front row covered her nose. "Oh my God, Jenny. I think he—" "I know. This is disgusting." She stood up, moved 3 rows back, dragging her bags, made a show of brushing off her jacket. Stan's jaw tightened. He looked at Marcus, at the puddle spreading across the floor, at the passengers getting louder, angrier, at the clock. 6 minutes. "Sir," Stan said. His voice had gone flat, cold. "Step off the bus." Marcus didn't respond. "I said get off." "Let him sit down at least," the teenager said. "He's not sitting anywhere on my bus." Stan stood, stepped around the fare box, grabbed the plastic bag dangling from Marcus's wrist. The old man's fingers clenched. "No!" Stan yanked it free, pushed past Marcus, hit the door lever. The doors hissed open. Rain blew in, soaking the first 3 rows. "Hey!" someone shouted. Stan stepped down to the curb, drew his arm back, hurled the bag into the street. It spun through the air, end over end. The thin plastic caught the wind, twisted, then it hit. The bag split open. White carnations exploded across the wet asphalt. The candles scattered, rolling into the gutter. One shattered against the curb, wax mixing with rainwater. The flowers lay in the street, petals browning, stems snapped, washing toward the storm drain. Marcus's world narrowed to a single point. The flowers. James's flowers. 57 years. 57 trips. 57 bouquets laid on a grave no one else remembered. And now they were in the gutter. Washing away. Something in his chest cracked. He lunged forward. His boots hit the steps. His knee buckled, but he kept going, hands reaching for the railing but missing, his weight already too far forward. His foot slipped. The wet rubber gave no traction. His heels skidded. His other foot came up, searching for purchase that wasn't there. He tried to catch himself. His shoulder hit the fare box. His hip slammed the metal pole, and then he was falling. He hit the floor face first. The impact drove the air from his lungs. His chin cracked against metal. His chest slammed down flat. Something hard beneath his jacket dug into his ribs. The box. He felt it shift, felt the duct tape give way, felt the weight slide sideways. No, 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 no. The field jacket's buttons popped free. The velvet box tumbled out, slid across the wet floor, spun, slowed. Stopped in the center of the aisle. Stan had stepped back onto the bus. He stood 3 feet away, water dripping from his uniform, staring down at what had just fallen from the homeless man's coat. The bus went silent. Marcus lifted his head, tasted blood. His vision swam. Through the blur, he could see the box lying there between them. Navy blue velvet, scuffed corners, gold lettering catching the light. Lieutenant James R. Morrison. The lid had come loose. Inside, something gold gleamed. No one breathed. The box lay in the center of the aisle. Navy blue velvet, darker where water had soaked through. The corners were worn white, the fabric rubbed thin from decades of handling. Gold lettering ran across the lid, tarnished but legible even from a distance. Lieutenant James R. Morrison, United States Marine Corps. The lid had cracked open, just an inch, just enough to catch the light. Marcus pushed himself up on his elbows. Pain shot through his ribs where he'd landed. His chin throbbed. Blood dripped from his lip onto the rubber mat, mixing with the rainwater in thin pink streams. He reached out. His arm trembled. His fingers stretched toward the box, but it was too far. 3 feet. Might as well have been 3 miles. "Don't!" His voice came out broken. Wet. Don't touch it. Stan stared down at the box, then at Marcus. Then back at the box. The bus driver's face had changed. The anger was still there, tightening the corners of his mouth, but something else had crept in behind his eyes. Confusion. Uncertainty. "What is that?" Stan's voice was quieter now. Marcus didn't answer. Couldn't. His throat had closed around the words. He pulled himself forward, inch by inch, dragging his body across the wet floor. His knees screamed. His ribs felt cracked. He didn't care. The box. He had to get to the box. Stan took a step forward. His boot came down next to the velvet case. "I said, what is that?" "Please." Marcus's voice cracked. "Please don't." Behind them, the teenager with the phone stood up. He'd stopped filming. His eyes were locked on the box. "Sit down," Stan said, but there was no force behind it this time. A woman in the middle section leaned forward, squinting. "Is that a jewelry box?" "Probably stole it," someone muttered. Stan crouched down, slowly. His knees popped. He reached out, fingers hovering over the velvet lid. Marcus lunged. His hand shot forward, covering the box, but Stan was faster. The driver's fingers closed around the case first. He lifted it out of Marcus's reach. "No!" Marcus's voice tore out of him, raw, desperate. "That's not... You can't..." Stan turned the box over in his hands. Studied the engraving. His thumb traced the letters of the name. The teenager had his phone up again, recording. Stan's thumb moved to the clasp, the small gold latch that had held everything together for 57 years. Marcus tried to push himself up. His arms gave out. He collapsed back onto the floor, gasping. "Don't open it, please." "It's not mine to..." "Then whose is it?" Stan's eyes were hard, suspicious. "You steal this from someone's house? Some dead guy's family?" "No, I didn't." "I wouldn't..." "Then explain." Marcus's vision blurred. His chest heaved. 57 years of carrying it, protecting it, keeping it safe. And now it was in the hands of a stranger who thought he was a thief. "It's not mine," Marcus whispered. I'm keeping it safe." "Safe from what?" "From people like you." The words came out before Marcus could stop them. Quiet. Bitter. True. Stan's jaw tightened. His thumb pressed against the clasp. "Don't..." Marcus reached out again, uselessly. "Please, you don't understand." "Then make me understand." "I can't." "Try." Marcus closed his eyes. 57 years. 57 trips. 57 promises kept in rain and snow and heat and cold because James couldn't keep them himself. Because James was 19 years old when the shrapnel tore through his chest on a hill that didn't even have a real name, just a number. 881. "It's his," Marcus said finally. "It belongs to him." "Who?" Marcus opened his eyes, looked at the name engraved on the box. "Lieutenant James R. Morrison, Marine Corps, 1st Battalion, 26 Marines." Stan's thumb stopped moving. "He saved my life," Marcus said. "Hill 881, Khe Sanh, 1968. The bus had gone completely silent. Even the rain seemed quieter now. 30 people held their breath. Stan looked down at the box in his hands. At the name. At the gold clasp under his thumb. His face had gone pale, the color draining like water through a cracked dam. His mouth opened. Closed. The teenager lowered his phone. "Holy shit," he whispered. Stan's thumb pressed the clasp. It clicked. The lid rose. And the world stopped. Gold. That was the first thing Stan saw. Pure gold catching the fluorescent light, bright against faded blue silk, a five-pointed star, an eagle perched at the top, wings spread, clutching arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other. 13 smaller stars surrounded it in a circle. The ribbon was pale blue, almost white where it had been folded for decades. Stan knew what it was immediately. He'd grown up on war movies, had every documentary about Vietnam saved on his DVR. He knew what a Medal of Honor looked like. He just never thought he'd hold one. The box trembled in his hands. His breath came short. His vision tunneled until all he could see was the star, the eagle, the ribbon. The highest honor, the rarest decoration, awarded for conspicuous gallantry, for risking your life above and beyond the call of duty. For being the kind of man Stan had always wished he could be, and he'd just thrown this man's flowers in the street. The blood drained from Stan's face. His hands went cold. The box felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds suddenly, pulling him down, threatening to drag him through the floor. He looked up. Marcus was still on the ground. Blood ran from his split lip. His hands were scraped raw from hitting the floor. His coat hung open, exposing a thin gray t-shirt underneath, soaked through with rain and sweat. Stan's legs gave out. He stumbled backward. His heel caught the edge of the driver's seat. He sat down hard, the metal still clutched in his shaking hands. Stan's voice broke. I didn't... Marcus pushed himself up. Slow. Every movement looked like it cost him. His ribs, his knee, his back. Everything hurt, and it showed in the way he moved, the way his face went gray with the effort. But he moved anyway. He crawled forward, reached out, took the box from Stan's limp fingers. Stan didn't resist. Couldn't. He sat frozen in his seat while Marcus pulled the metal close to his chest, cradling it like a child. Marcus's hands were shaking worse than Stan's. Mud covered the velvet. Rainwater had soaked into the silk lining. The old man looked down at it, at the filth, covering something sacred, and his face crumpled. He found a dry corner of his shirt, the cleanest part he could reach, used it to wipe the mud from the star, from the eagle, from the ribbon. Gentle, reverent. His fingers moved carefully over every surface, cleaning it the way you'd clean something you loved. When it was as clean as he could make it, Marcus looked up at Stan. Their eyes met. "You're right," Marcus said quietly. "I'm dirty." He held up the metal. Let Stan see it gleaming in the light. But mud washes clean. Marcus set the box down on the floor between them, touched his own chest. His fingers found the collar of his shirt, pulled it aside. Scars. Deep ones. Raised keloid tissue running from his collarbone down toward his sternum. Shrapnel wounds. Dozens of them. Some the size of dimes, others longer, wider. "These don't," Marcus said. His voice was steady now, strong. "These are permanent." He looked at Stan, looked him dead in the eye. "Don't you ever touch the blood of my brothers?" The words landed like a physical blow. Stan's mouth opened. Nothing came out. He tried to breathe and couldn't, tried to speak and had no words. His whole body had gone numb. The teenager with the phone had stopped recording. His hand hung at his side, forgotten. The woman who'd complained about her coat sat frozen, staring at the scars. No one moved. No one spoke. The rain drummed on the roof. Somewhere outside, a car horn honked. Life continued on the street, oblivious. But inside the bus, time had stopped. Stan stared at the scars on Marcus's chest, at the metal lying between them on the wet floor, at the old man who'd been standing in his doorway 5 minutes ago, dripping and desperate, and who Stan had decided wasn't worth the effort it would take to show basic human decency. His radio crackled. "Bus 42, security is 2 minutes out. Do you still need assistance? Stan didn't move. Bus 42, respond. Marcus reached for the metal, picked it up, closed the lid carefully, reverently. Held it against his chest the way he'd been holding it when he first stepped onto the bus. Like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. Because it was. Stan's hand moved to the radio, lifted it. His fingers were still shaking so badly he almost dropped it. Dispatch, he said. His voice came out as a whisper. Cancel that security call. Say again, 42? Cancel it. Louder now. False alarm. My mistake. Silence on the other end. Then, copy. Canceling. Stan set the radio down, looked at Marcus, at the blood on his chin, at the way he was still holding the metal like someone might try to take it again, at the flowers lying in the gutter outside, ruined. Stan started. Stopped. Started again. Sir, He had no words. Nothing that could possibly be enough. Nothing that could undo the last 10 minutes. Marcus just looked at him. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. The silence stretched, deepened, became something living, something heavy that pressed down on everyone in the bus. Stan sat in his driver's seat with his hands in his lap and his face the color of ash. Marcus sat on the floor with blood on his chin and a Medal of Honor pressed against his heart. And 30 witnesses held their breath. If you believe we owe our veterans more than judgment, more than suspicion, more than doubt, if you believe we owe them our gratitude, hit that like button right now. Because this story isn't over yet. The silence held. 1 second, 5, 10. No one moved. No one knew what happened next. Not even Stan. Stan's knees hit the wet floor. He didn't think about it. His body moved before his brain caught up, dropping down beside the old man who'd just shown him what a real uniform looked like. Marcus was trying to sit up. His arms shook. His face had gone gray. Blood still dripped from his split lip onto his shirt. Stan reached out, slow, careful. Sir, let me... His hands found Marcus's shoulders, thin, bird bone thin under the soaked field jacket. Stan could feel the old man trembling. I got you, Stan said quietly. Easy now. He lifted. Marcus's weight was nothing. Stan guided him toward the nearest seat, 3 rows back, away from the door. Marcus sank down. His head fell back against the window. His eyes were unfocused, staring at something that wasn't there. The metal box stayed clutched against his chest. Stan turned toward the front of the bus. 30 faces stared back at him. The woman who'd moved her purse looked away first. The teenager with the phone had stopped recording. A voice cut through the silence. Wait a damn minute! A man stood up in the back. Mid-50s, baseball cap, work jacket with a construction company logo. His face was red. That's a Medal of Honor? The man's voice carried through the bus. That real? Stan's stomach tightened. Sit down. I'm just asking. Stolen valor's a real thing. My uncle served. Marines. Never saw a Medal of Honor because they don't just hand those out. I said sit down. What unit? The man stepped into the aisle. What year? Come on, old man. If it's real, you should be proud to tell us. Marcus didn't respond. His eyes stayed fixed on nothing, his breathing shallow. The construction worker stopped 3 feet from Stan. See? Can't even answer. Probably bought it at a pawn shop. Stan moved, 1 step forward. His voice dropped low and dangerous. Get back in your seat. Hey, I'm just... This man doesn't owe you proof. Stan's voice rose, loud enough for everyone to hear. He doesn't owe you his service record. He doesn't owe you a goddamn thing. I'm just saying... You're done saying. Stan jabbed a finger toward the back. Sit down, right now, or you're walking home in the rain. The construction worker's face went redder, his fists clenched. But the man looked at Stan's eyes, saw something there that made him think twice. He backed up, then turned and stalked back to his seat, muttering. Nobody else said a word. Stan turned back to Marcus. The old man hadn't moved, still staring. A thin line of blood ran from his lip down to his chin. Stan pulled a handkerchief from his pocket. Clean, white, pressed this morning by habit. He knelt down again. Careful, respectful. Sir, his voice was soft now. You're bleeding. No response. Stan reached out, touched the cloth to Marcus's chin. The old man flinched, but didn't pull away. Stan dabbed at the blood, wiping it carefully from the stubbled skin. Up close, Stan could see the scars more clearly. Not just the long one running down his neck. Others. Dozens of them. Small pockmarks across his cheek. A chunk missing from his earlobe. The kind of damage shrapnel makes. Marcus's lips moved. Barely a whisper. Cemetery. Stan's hand stopped. Sir? Promised. Marcus's eyes found Stan's face. Have to go. Stan touched the old man's forehead, burning up. You need a hospital. No. Marcus's hand tightened on the box. 57 years. Never missed. His breathing was getting faster. His skin felt like fire. Stan looked at him, at the fever glazing his eyes, at the way he was holding that metal box, at the flowers still lying in the gutter outside, ruined. He made a decision. Stan stood, walked to the front, raised his voice. Next stop is Ashland and 51st. Anyone who needs to get off next bus is 7 minutes behind us. After that, I'm making an emergency run to the cemetery. The business suit stood immediately. So did 3 others. They didn't complain. They'd all seen what happened. Stan opened the doors at 51st. 4 passengers got off without a word. The rest stayed seated. They knew. Stan closed the doors, grabbed the radio. Dispatch, bus 42. Static crackled. Go ahead. 42. Medical emergency. Deviating 2 stops past turnaround to Abraham Lincoln Cemetery. Patient refusing ambulance. I'll resume route after drop-off. A pause. 42. That's outside protocol. Write me up if you need to. I'm doing it. He clicked off. The engine rumbled. The bus pulled forward. Rain hammered the windshield. Behind him, Marcus had started to shake, his whole body trembling. His eyes were closing. The fever was winning. Stan pressed the accelerator. 2 stops, maybe 12 minutes. 12 minutes to keep a promise. The bus tore through the rain like it was running from something. Stan hunched over the wheel. Water streamed down the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. The road ahead blurred into streaks of gray and black, headlights from oncoming traffic smearing across the glass. His hands gripped tight, knuckles white. Behind him, Marcus had gone quiet. Too quiet. Stan glanced in the rearview mirror. The old man sat slumped against the window, eyes half closed, lips moving without sound. The metal box had slipped from his grip, resting in his lap now. His whole body shook with fever. The engine roared. Stan pushed harder on the gas. Thunder cracked overhead. Close. The whole bus seemed to shake with it. And Marcus screamed. Not loud. Not the kind of scream that came from pain. This was something else. Something raw and ancient. Torn from a place 57 years deep. The chopper's gone! Stan's foot eased off the gas. He looked back again. Marcus wasn't sitting anymore. He'd curled forward, arms wrapped around his head, rocking. His eyes were wide open now, but seeing nothing. Seeing somewhere else. Some other rain. Some other storm. Don't leave us behind! The words came out in gasps, desperate, pleading. Rain's too heavy. Can't see anything. The teenager 3 rows back had his phone out again. Not filming, just holding it, frozen, staring at Marcus like he was watching something he shouldn't see. Stan's heart hammered. He'd seen this before, his uncle, after Desert Storm. The same look, the same voice that wasn't talking to anyone in the room, because the room wasn't where he was anymore. The bus hit a pothole. To Marcus, it wasn't a pothole. It was incoming. A shell landing 20 yards out. The impact threw him forward in his seat, and suddenly he was back in the mud, back in the smoke, back where the rain tasted like copper, and the air smelled like burning fuel. "Blood!" his voice cracked. "Blood in my eyes! James!" His fingers clawed at nothing, reaching, grabbing for someone who wasn't there. "Open your eyes, James! Open your eyes!" The construction worker in the back had gone pale. The woman with the purse had her hand over her mouth. Stan pressed the accelerator. The cemetery was close. Had to be close. Thunder rolled again. In Marcus's head, it wasn't thunder. It was artillery. The same sound that had been chasing him for 57 years. Marcus's breathing came in ragged sobs now. His whole body convulsed, like he was trying to lift something heavy. Something he couldn't move. "No, can't die." The words broke apart. Shattered. "You promised you'd go home." Then softer, quieter, like he was talking to someone who couldn't hear anymore. "I'll bring it back." Stan's hands tightened on the wheel. "To your mama." The words hit Stan like a fist to the chest. "I promise. I'll give it to your mama. She'll know. James, she'll know you mattered." Stan's throat closed. 57 years. Not just carrying a medal, not just visiting a grave, carrying a promise to a mother who'd lost her son, who'd waited for someone to tell her that her boy mattered, that his death meant something, that someone remembered. Marcus went limp, collapsed back against the seat, his eyes rolled up, showing white. "Sir!" Stan's voice came out sharp, loud. "Stay with me!" No response. The rain pounded harder. Stan could barely see the road now. His windshield was a wall of water, the wipers useless against the deluge. Then through the gray, he saw it. White stone, rows and rows of it, stretching out under the storm like teeth. Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. Stan cranked the wheel. The bus lurched right, tires squealing. He blew past the main entrance. Didn't slow for the visitor lot, just kept going until he found the service road that ran along the back fence. He slammed the brakes. The bus skidded on wet asphalt. Came to a stop 20 feet from a small access gate, the kind maintenance crews used. Beyond it, white headstones disappeared into the rain. Stan killed the engine, grabbed his umbrella from beside the driver's seat. Turned to face the passengers still on board. "Wait here." He didn't wait for an answer. The doors hissed open. Rain roared in. Stan stepped down into water up to his ankles and moved to where Marcus sat slumped and burning and lost somewhere in 1968. "We're here, sir," Stan said quietly. "I got you." Marcus's eyes opened, just barely, fever bright and unfocused. But he saw the white stones through the window, and he tried to stand. Marcus's legs gave out on the second step. Stan caught him before he hit the ground. One arm wrapped around the old man's torso, taking the weight. Marcus felt like nothing. Hollow bones and fever and 57 years of carrying something too heavy for one person to bear alone. "I got you," Stan said. "Lean on me." Marcus tried to pull away, tried to stand on his own. His pride demanded it. His body refused. His right leg buckled, the one with shrapnel still buried deep, and he would have gone down if Stan hadn't held firm. "Sir, you can't have to." Marcus's voice came out as a rasp. "He's waiting." Stan looked at the cemetery gate, 20 yards away. Might as well have been 20 miles. He adjusted his grip, got his right arm more securely around Marcus's waist. The old man's left arm draped over Stan's shoulders. Together, they made one functioning body. "Okay," Stan said quietly. "We do this together. He popped open the black umbrella with his free hand, held it mostly over Marcus, letting the rain hammer his own right shoulder. Water soaked through his CTA uniform within seconds, cold and heavy, but he didn't shift the umbrella. Didn't share the cover. Marcus needed it more. They moved forward. Slow. Marcus's feet barely lifted off the ground, just shuffled forward in half steps. Stan bore almost all the weight, his boots sinking into mud with each step. The old man's breathing came in short, wet gasps against Stan's shoulder. The cemetery spread out before them. Rows and rows of white marble, perfectly aligned, each one marking a promise kept and a life given. The rain made them gleam like they were lit from within. Stan had driven past this place 1,000 times, never stopped, never thought about the men buried here. The boys, really, most of them younger than Stan was now when they died. Marcus stumbled. His knee gave out completely. Stan caught him, held him up, kept moving. "Almost there, sir. You're doing good." "Section 14, Marcus wheezed. Row 7. Stan scanned the markers, found the section number on a small granite post, turned left, counted rows. 7. They moved down the line. Marcus's head lifted slightly, his fever-bright eyes scanning the names. His lips moved, reading each one, searching. Then he stopped. Stan felt it, the way Marcus's whole body went rigid, the way his breathing changed. "Here," Marcus whispered. "It's here." Stan looked down at the headstone. White marble, simple, clean. The rain had washed away any dirt or debris, leaving the engraving sharp and clear against the stone. L.T. James R. Morrison, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam, Feb. 12, 1949. May 5th, 1968, beloved son, 19 years old. Stan's chest tightened. Marcus pulled away from Stan's grip, tried to stand on his own. His legs shook violently but held, barely. "Sir, let me help." "No." Marcus's voice was firm despite the tremor. "This part, I do alone." He took one step forward, then another. His hands reached out, found the top of the headstone, used it to lower himself down. His knees hit the mud, sank in. Rain poured over him, soaking through his field jacket, running down his face, mixing with something else that might have been tears or might have been just more rain. Stan stood back, held the umbrella over Marcus from behind. It didn't help much. The wind drove the rain sideways, but he held it anyway. Marcus reached into his jacket with shaking hands, pulled out the velvet box, the same box that had fallen on the bus floor 20 minutes and a lifetime ago. He held it in both palms like an offering. His lips moved, speaking words meant for one person, for someone who'd been waiting 57 years to hear them. Stan couldn't make out what Marcus said. The rain was too loud. Or maybe some conversations were meant to be private, between brothers, between the living and the dead, between a promise made and a promise kept. Marcus leaned forward, placed the box on top of the headstone. His hands lingered there, touching the marble, touching his friend's name carved in stone. "I'm here," Marcus said. Louder now, clear enough for Stan to hear. "I made it." His voice broke on the last word. 57 years, James. 57 years, and I never forgot, never missed a year. I promised your mama I'd bring you home, promised I'd tell her what you did, how you saved us, how you saved me. Marcus's shoulders shook, his head bowed until his forehead pressed against the cold marble. "She's with you now, been with you a long time, and I'm so tired, brother, so damn tired." The rain kept falling, the wind kept blowing. The rows of white stones stood silent witness. Stan's throat had closed completely. His eyes burned. He stood there with water pouring off his shoulders, holding an umbrella that wasn't helping, watching a man fulfill a promise that should have been impossible to keep. Marcus stayed there, kneeling in the mud, holding on to his friend's grave like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Then his hands slipped. He pitched forward. Stan moved fast, dropped the umbrella, caught Marcus before his face hit the stone. The old man's body had gone completely limp, fever and exhaustion finally winning. "Sir! Marcus!" No response. Marcus's eyes had rolled back. His breathing was shallow, rapid. His skin burned like fire even in the cold rain. Stan lowered him gently to the ground, pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped it. He dialed 911. The ambulance came with sirens screaming. Red and white lights cut through the rain, spinning across the rows of white marble. 2 paramedics jumped out, equipment in hand, moving fast across the muddy ground. Stan stepped back. Let them work. Watch them check Marcus's vitals. Shine lights in his eyes. Wrap a blood pressure cuff around his thin arm. "Fever's 103, one paramedic said. "BP's dropping, possible pneumonia. We need to stabilize him here first." They worked fast. IV line in, oxygen mask on. Thermal blanket wrapped around Marcus's shaking body. One paramedic radioed the hospital while the other monitored vitals. Stan knelt beside the stretcher, close enough to hear Marcus breathing. Shallow, rapid, wrong. Marcus's eyes fluttered open, found Stan's face. His lips moved behind the oxygen mask. Stan leaned closer. "James." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Fragments, broken. "Saved me. Hill 881. "Don't talk, sir. Save your strength." "No." Marcus's hand lifted slightly, grabbed Stan's sleeve, weak but insistent. "Have to know, Stan covered Marcus's hand with his own. "I'm listening." "May 5th, 68. Each word cost him. Pinned down, NVA everywhere. Marcus's breathing hitched. The paramedic adjusted the oxygen flow. "James stood up. Drew, fire." Tears ran down Marcus's face. "3 rounds. Chest. Died in my arms." Stan's throat closed. "Said, tell my mama." Marcus's grip tightened. "Tell her. I did good." "You told her." Stan said, "You Marcus's head moved side to side. "No, too late. She died. 6 months after the telegram. Grief." The words came in gasps now. The paramedic looked at Stan, shook his head. They needed to move soon. "James, only child. No one left." Marcus's eyes locked on Stan's, desperate, needing someone to understand. "So I kept it. 57 years. Visiting. So he wouldn't be forgotten?" "He's not forgotten, sir. I see him. I see what he did." "Just the keeper," Marcus whispered. "Just holding it for him." Stan reached into his jacket, pulled out the velvet box, the one he'd retrieved from the headstone. He held it so Marcus could see. "You're wrong," Stan said quietly. Marcus's eyes found the box. "You're not just a keeper. Keepers stay at a distance. Stay safe." Stan's voice shook, but held steady. "You didn't keep the medal. You kept him. Kept him alive. Kept him remembered." A sob broke from Marcus's chest. "What you did, living on the street so you could afford the bus fare every year, that's its own kind of courage." Stan leaned closer. "You've been fighting a different war. 57 years. No relief, no backup." The paramedic touched Stan's shoulder. "We need to transport now." Stan nodded, looked back at Marcus. You didn't fail your mission, sir. You completed it today, because now I know I'll remember. You made sure of that. Marcus's hand reached for the box, trembling. Stan started to give it to him, but Marcus pushed it back toward Stan's chest. You keep it. Marcus's voice was fading. Until I get back. I'll keep it safe. I promise. Tell him. I came. Marcus's eyes were closing. Tell James. Made it 58 years. The paramedics lifted the stretcher, started moving toward the ambulance. Marcus's hand slipped from Stan's sleeve. Stan stood. Watch them load Marcus into the back. Watch the doors close. Watch the ambulance pull away. Siren wailing, red lights disappearing into the rain. He stood there for a long moment, alone among the white stones, rain pouring down, the velvet box pressed against his chest where Marcus had pushed it. Then he looked down at the headstone. Lieutenant James R. Morrison, Feb 12, 1949, May 5, 1968. Beloved son. Stan knelt in the mud, placed his hand on the cold marble. Sir, he said quietly, your brother came today, like he does every year. He brought your medal, told me what you did, how you saved him. The rain kept falling. He's been carrying you for 57 years. Never forgot. Never stopped. Lived on the street so he could afford the bus fare to visit you. Stan's voice cracked. I just wanted you to know. You didn't die alone that day. You've never been alone. Marcus made sure of that. He stayed there for another minute, then stood, turned back toward the service road where his bus waited, where the passengers waited. The nurse in scrubs stood by the bus door. So did the teenager with the phone. A few others had gotten out, standing in the rain, watching. Stan walked back, slow. The box felt heavy against his chest, heavier than it should. Like it carried more than gold and ribbon. Like it carried 57 years of loyalty and grief and love. The nurse spoke first. Her voice was gentle. Is he going to be okay? I don't know, Stan said. But he made it. That's what mattered to him. The teenager looked at Stan's jacket, at the rectangular shape beneath the fabric. The medal? He asked me to keep it. Until he gets back. No one spoke for a moment. Then Stan climbed back onto the bus. The passengers followed, found their seats. Quiet, respectful. Stan sat in the driver's seat, started the engine. His hands were still shaking. He looked in the rearview mirror, at the empty seat where Marcus had sat, at the passengers who'd witnessed everything, at the cemetery gates disappearing behind them as he pulled back onto the road. The metal pressed against his heart with every breath. A promise kept, a burden shared, a brother remembered. The hospital room smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. Stan stood in the doorway, still in his uniform. Shift had ended 20 minutes ago. He'd driven straight here. Marcus lay in the bed, small under white sheets. IV lines ran to his arm. Monitors beeped steadily. His eyes were closed, but his breathing was even, strong. A nurse looked up from checking his chart. Family? Stan hesitated, then nodded. He's stable. Pneumonia? Dehydration, malnutrition, but he's tough. Doctor says another day out there, and she didn't finish. Didn't need to. Can I? 5 minutes. He needs rest. Stan approached the bed, pulled up a chair, sat. Marcus's eyes opened, took a moment to focus, then recognition flickered. You came, Marcus whispered. Told you I'd keep it safe. Stan touched his jacket. Still got it. Marcus's hand moved slightly on the blanket, relief in his eyes. VA's taking over his care, the nurse said quietly from behind Stan. Social worker got him into the transitional housing program. He'll have a place. Support. He won't be on the street anymore. Stan's throat tightened. He looked at Marcus. You hear that, sir? You're going home. Marcus's eyes filled. He nodded once. Stan stayed for the full 5 minutes, then stood. I'll check on you. The medal? I'll bring it when you're ready. Marcus closed his eyes. A small smile touched his lips. Stan left. 1 week later. Rain again. Light this time. Just a drizzle. Stan pulled up to Ashland and 47th. Same stop. Different day. A man stood at the edge of the shelter, Hispanic, soaked through. No jacket heavy enough for the weather. Stan opened the doors. The passengers climbed on. The man at the edge didn't move. Sir, Stan called out, you getting on? The man looked up, pointed at himself. Yeah, you. Come on. I don't have fare. Stan pulled a day pass from his pocket, held it out. This one's on me. Get out of the rain. The man climbed on, took the pass with shaking hands, moved to the back. Stan closed the doors. As he pulled away, movement across the street caught his eye. A wheelchair. Marcus, thinner but clean, warm jacket. A VA nurse pushing him along the sidewalk. Their eyes met. Marcus lifted his hand slightly. Stan nodded back. No smile, no wave. Just recognition. Just respect. Marcus's hand lowered. The nurse turned the corner. They disappeared. Stan sat at the green light for a moment. A car honked behind him. He drove forward. I used to look for heroes in pressed uniforms and polished shoes, he thought, in people who looked like they had it all together. The bus rolled through the rain. But now I know. The greatest heroes don't always look the part. Sometimes they walk in the rain, stand in the cold, keep promises no one else remembers. He pulled up to the next stop. A young woman with a crying baby climbed on, struggling with bags. Stan smiled. Take your time, ma'am. She looked surprised, grateful. Stan closed the doors, continued his route. The rain kept falling. The city kept moving. But Stan wasn't the same person driving this bus anymore. He kept his eyes open for the people everyone else was trying not to see. Marcus found his way home, but tonight, over 35,000 other veterans are still sleeping on the streets. They are the heroes walking in the rain. Here at JusticeSoul, we believe their stories deserve to be told. We believe no hero should be forgotten. If you stand with them, stand with us. Subscribe and share this video to help us shine a light on the invisible.